There's one area of this car that I don't want us to be democratic about. It's not about fairness. It's like I'm being a dictator on this one. And I don't want us to argue. I'm not even going to agree with any comment that is against what I'm about to say. Because in this area, I believe it's not an opinion, it's a fact. This is a beautiful looking car. Kia has made a beautiful looking car. This is just beautiful. And anyone who has a problem with that, we're going to meet in the comments and we're going to resolve it the hard way. Yes. Yes. If you've been on this channel long enough, you know for sure that we start on the road, kick it, and just start talking about how the car makes us feel on the road and how it performs and so on. But hey, today we're going to flip things around a bit because we can't not talk about the design of this car. That will be an injustice. Otherwise, welcome to the channel. I'm Sibua and I appreciate that you're here with me today. So we are in the lower to mid spec derivative, which is the Sportage EX, because the lower spec just under this one is the Sportage LX. That LX starts at 555k and this one is at 609k. Above this one there's three variants: the GT line, GT line plus, and top spec GT line S. They all have the same engine, 1.6 liter turbo that is mated to a 7-speed DCT. Together they are pushing out 132 kilowatts and 265 newton meters of torque. The fact that this is almost lower spec and it looks like this, I feel like Kia deserves a round of applause because they didn't compromise a lot on making it look so much different to the higher spec, as much as the higher specs look so beautiful. I'm thinking, even when you're in here, you don't get that feeling that, you know, there are cars where you're like, it looks completely different to the top spec to a point that you feel like you're in a different car and in a different world. But this is not what Kia has done here. And that's something that impresses me with the package overall. When I'm looking at it from outside, looking at the face, the boomerang DRLs here, the placement of the headlight cluster as well, the way it looks, you know, this current trend where the headlights are just below the DRLs and so on. They've hidden it so well because the cluster is open and it's giving you that I'm used to this, but I can see the difference in terms of the improvements when it comes to where they're placing it, but it's artistic for me. When you're looking at this brushed aluminum, I think it's brushed aluminum, just on top of the grille, and the way it goes all the way down, then you find it as well there by the fog lights. The way it is right now with DRLs on and lights and everything, they've managed to create a face that you will turn back and just look at and just enjoy looking at it, because that's something that you see on the streets when you're driving it as well. Compliments are coming in. This car looks amazing, this and that. I mean, that's just beautiful. When I'm looking at the side as well, looking at the height together with the length, the size, like this size of SUVs normally looks amazing because it doesn't look forced to be an SUV. It fits in well. Looking at the size of the wheels as well, 18 inches, the way they fit in these wheel arches, together with this cladding that is just gloss, it makes a lot of sense. Adds a lot to the appeal of this car. The way they used, I don't know if this is brushed or chrome, but I will say chrome because on the windows is chrome, it looks chrome, but the one at the bottom is a little bit brushed, like aluminum brushed a bit. But whatever they've done with this, they've done it with careful consideration of how this car is going to look. Coming to the rear, again, they didn't compromise. Looking at that silver bit at the bottom as well, talking well to the trims that are on the side and also in the front. They've done a great job. When you look up and you look at these lights when they're on, it's a phenomenal design for me. And when I'm taking my eyes up as well, just to look at the wing just below the rear windscreen, you can see that there's that element of EV6 a bit. I think they're preparing this for future of electric. And also when you look down, you can see that they're not even trying to show you the exhaust pipes and so on. I think they're preparing this for EV future. Jumping inside, you continue with what you've seen on the outside from the metallic bits, mixing with gloss as well. And the way the screens are, it's something that impresses me because it goes well with gloss black. Even when the screen is on, the graphics that they've decided to use, which is a dark theme, it goes well with the gloss black. And when you're looking as well in terms of the screens, because you have this cluster screen, you have the infotainment screen and the aircon screen, and that one is also controlling the volumes and everything, the sound system and so on. It's just carefully thought of in terms of how they designed this car. And in here, that's where you start to realize the quality of this car. Because you cannot fool quality. You will feel it by the hand. You will see it. In fact, sometimes people can even make it look like it, but you will just feel it by the hand and starting to sit down that, okay, maybe this is inferior. But in here, you do not feel like that. It feels completely different. And that's where I'm saying you cannot fool quality. You can't. Starting from the key, when they hand it over to you, you can just feel the quality of it. Like it's heavy, the way they design, the way it is with these metallic bits as well. You get in, touch the door handle, you can feel that they carefully thought of how they want to make this quality. Close the door and listen to the sound. It cannot lie to you. That cannot lie to you. The insulation already, you can tell from that. Touching the window controls on this panel, you can feel as well that these buttons, they are well screwed together. Now you get in, start touching around. When you start touching window controls, you can feel that these buttons are solid. Go to the top of the door panels, soft touch, solid as well. Now when you start facing what's in front of you, looking at the screens when they turn on and stuff, see the graphics crisp. You go down, you touch the knobs, solid. When you put your arm by the armrest, you realize that, you know what, I'm in a better space, man. I'm cocooned in my own space as a driver. And because now the center console is raised up, it creates a lot of difference in how you're feeling. This feels very premium because you don't have to extend your hand all the way down to actually feel like you need to touch things. Everything is just here. And it's those simple things that add up and make you feel like, you know what, I'm in a premium vehicle. Because by the time you get in and close the door, the seat is just going to push you in your comfortable preferred position that you left. I mean, when you stand up and leaving the car, it's like just, you know, doing the courtesy of giving you space so that you can be able to get out. And then when you come back, it's taking you back to that position so that you can drive out. That's memory seats. One thing that kills the ambience created by this interior is when you're starting to get into the car. There's this welcome chime that I feel like it's coming from like a cheap stereo. I don't know, because these speakers are not bad. We're still going to talk about the sound system, but it doesn't necessarily inspire confidence in the way it feels. Maybe Kia needs to look into that because it adds to the total ambience of how you're feeling when you're getting inside the car and everything that looks amazing. Before we even talk about performance, how it drives, every other thing, I just need to summarize what I just said right now. Basically, I think the biggest selling point of this car is the feeling that you get when you're inside of this car. If you were to just close your eyes, forget any brand, forget what this car is and where is it coming from, just close your eyes and touch and feel everything around you in terms of your sitting position and everything else, and just, we're going to ask you, okay, which car is this? I promise you, if you think Kia is still a budget car, you're not going to mention Kia, because nothing about this says I'm cheap. I promise you, nothing. Going to the road, how it drives, how it feels, how it performs. You know, first things first, seat adjustments, perfect. I'm not complaining about that because there's a lot of adjustments. Electric adjustments, both passenger and drivers. And in the drivers, you also have lumbar support. You have a lot of adjustments that can adjust even under the thigh and so on. So I find it to be a little bit easy to position yourself to actually have like a clear vision outside. And whoever decided to add this window just by the mirrors there, that small one, has done a great job, because that adds a lot or improves a lot of how you're going to be driving and maneuvering around town. You don't find yourself with a lot of blind spots, as much as it can assist you with that, but there are blind spots that you can't see, because yes, it has a blind spot monitoring, but it's mostly for cars and other obstacles that are just close to the car and so on, not when you have like to look down and see if you're not stepping on that road capping on the side. But when it comes to moving it, that's where the pleasure is starting to diminish for me, because the leg in here is a little bit too heavy for me. When I'm thinking about how much I have to push down the throttle to actually get this car moving to a level that I want it to move, it bothers me just a bit. And that is not only from a standstill. In a standstill moment, you can feel that, you know what, if I don't push this throttle hard enough, the person behind me might start complaining. And that's not something that I enjoy when it comes to moving a car, especially when I'm driving it in town and so on. And that is not that different, like I said, with the overtaking. When it comes to overtaking, especially the ones that you want to do it as quick as possible, your maths need to be on point, and you need to pre-plan each and every overtake, especially when you need to take quick ones. Let's say a car is coming just on the right and you want to take a quick one because another one is going to follow, but you know you can make it. You need to pre-plan that, knowing that by the time that car is by your mirror, you're already starting to just press the throttle, make sure that you're going to make it. Otherwise, that leg is going to disappoint you. And this engine knows how to settle down. Once you're done with that overtaking and it's making that loud noise, you're going to settle down properly, because as well, again, you can't lie when it comes to this. Insulation, when it comes to that, we will catch you if you lied on quality when it comes to insulation. This car is well insulated. I mean, there's just minimal wind noise coming from the meters on the side. I can hear that. But when you're playing the sound system, it can cancel that easily. We will do the sound system test later in this video. But when I'm thinking about insulation overall, it's well insulated. The road noise, it's not something that I'm worried about. I'm not worried about the engine noise as well. Even when you're not playing the sound system, I'm not worried about it, especially once you're just cruising, whether at 120 or just above. I can't say anything else, right? So whether at 120, you're going to find yourself in a situation where, you know what, you're sitting in a very comfortable environment. And the suspension setup in here is adding to that comfort that I'm talking about, because this car can float when you want it to. When you're just cruising, it can float. I mean, we do have bumpy roads in South Africa. We do have potholes here and there. But when it's hitting those, you know, even when you're hitting the hard ones, it doesn't come into the cabin in a funny way. It's a thud instead of a bang. So that's something that you will also just feel that the quality in here is quite amazing. This suspension is McPherson in front, multi-link at the back. This setup is mostly used even in luxury cars, because they know that when it comes to this multi-link, it's like independent in the back, so it can bend on each side separately without actually affecting the other side. So it adds a lot to how comfortable the car feels. And in here, I feel like they got it right in this setup. It works well, especially with this body type. When you get to the sound system and how it affects insulation and how it plays, because you know in many cars, of course, when you start driving it, some of the notes, especially the bass, it's gone. In here though, as much as this is not a branded sound system, they managed to give it the right balance. You get the notes, you get the instruments, it sounds well balanced. I can't complain about this. Actually, this is a quality sound system. If it's in-house, I'm impressed, because if this is what they can do. If they get a branded one, they're going to be able to do much better. It's only 6 speakers, but it sounds well balanced. And that's how it sounds like. You can compare it with many other reviews that we've done sound system test. Just go to those videos, check in the timestamps, sound system test. You'll be able to compare it with others as well. When it comes to punching it through the engine, as I said, that I can't complain much about it. It has driving modes. It has like Eco, Sport, Standard, and Smart. I did a lot of kilometers on Smart, and I'll explain why. When it comes to Eco and Sport, Eco, of course, it feels a little bit heavy, and Sport in here is a little bit different for me because it doesn't matter what amount of legal speed are you doing. It doesn't look like the transmission is saying it's enough. So even when you're doing like 120, you are just above 120, it's still holding on sometimes to gear 5. And I felt that it's making the engine to just be loud unnecessarily because it's holding on to lower gears, feeling like you still want to push it even more. Standard is okay. I mean, it's the normal drive mode of this car. And when you just pushing it, that leg, I felt like it's still out there because it doesn't necessarily feel like you want to drive it in a sporty way. But when you take it to Smart, that's where I feel like it knows how to respond. When you want to be comfortable, you just want to cruise, it settles in quite well. When you want to push it, it comes in quicker than on Standard. As much as it's still a little bit slow, like I said, it's much better because it's respond to your throttle input and how exactly do you want to move the car. When it comes to the transmission and engine performance, adequate. I find this 7-speed DCT to be proper. It doesn't struggle to make changes and to realize when exactly should it change, especially when it's on Smart. And when it comes to the punch of the engine itself, I can't complain about that. 132 kilowatts, 265 Nm is adequate for this body size. Not everyone is going to be able to push you, especially similar cars. I can give you an example with the likes of BMW X118i. I don't think they're going to see the front of this car. If they try to push you, they're only going to see the tail lights. Just don't overdo it because this car is not necessarily built for that. And when you do that as well, you're not going to like the fuel consumption because I didn't average anything less than 7.8 in here. When I finished, I think I had done around just above 600, close to 650, I think. And I averaged 8 liters to 100. When I'm thinking about the tank though, I did a refuel during the week. And I'm thinking this tank, if you're driving it like that, it's probably going to give you around 550. For a 54-liter tank, that is just above 10 liters to 100 in real terms. So yeah, fuel consumption in here is one thing that is not necessarily the best, especially when you're going to be driving it around and doing short distances and short runs and so on. Remember when I said the fact that it's a lower to mid-spec variant is going to contribute a lot to how you've seen this car as a package. While when it comes to the features, they didn't put in everything out there that you can think about because of the spec level where it is. But I feel they managed to spec it well for where it fits in the range. It's just running short of some advanced driving systems like around view monitor, which is a 360-degree camera. It only has a rear camera. It doesn't have adaptive cruise control. It doesn't have lane keeping assist and centering. It doesn't have some of the crash avoidance systems as well. And it doesn't come with a panoramic sunroof, which might be a bummer for some because I know how much people love the sunroofs here. Across the range though, you will find all those things the higher you go, of course. But the spec level was not ignored. It's a little bit impressive because it does have all-round parking sensors, cross-traffic alert, keyless entry. When you're approaching the door, by the way, it does this lights thing. It adds to the ambience of just how you're feeling. And then there's memory seats as well with lumbar support for the driver, wireless charging, auto lights, rain sensing wipers. You get auto aircon, auto dimming rear view mirror, of course, heated steering wheel, and it has heated seats. Impressive for me is that in this segment, I hardly see a car that has those heated seats in front and at the rear, and in here you are finding them even at this spec level. You also get an electronic handbrake or parking brake. The only thing I don't like about it is that you always have to apply it by hand. Even when you're just turning off the car, you know, it moves just a bit if you just put it on park and you forgot to put it. And most of the cars in this segment, they apply it automatically once you turn off the car and put it in park. When it comes to the practicality of this car, there's nothing much to complain about because there's plenty of spaces in the cabin to just put stuff around. When it comes to cup holders, they're very versatile, especially the ones in front, because you can open and close them. That means you can put much more than cups in this area. When it comes to the center console, quite plenty of spaces to also find a way to put your phone, the keys, and so on. Armrest being quite sufficient, I can't complain about that. When it comes to the rear charging, they place them so well, actually, that is impressive, because people aren't going to fight and put their charging spots just down by the air vents. They are placed on the seats just on the side so that the person who's sitting on each side can be able to charge on their own. It's only Type-C, by the way. And of course, you look down, you realize that you also have air vents at the back. If you look under the seat as well, you will see that there is air vents that are going to be blowing to the back as well. The cabin itself is spacious. I can't complain for a car of this size with around 2.7 meters of wheelbase. I'm expecting like the space to be sufficient, like I'm seeing with the likes of the BMW X1, CX5. We're talking about the Haval H6 as well. That's almost the same space in the cabin that you're going to find. At the back, you can't complain about headroom and legroom as well. As much as it's sloping just a bit, I can't complain about that. Going into the boot right now, you're going to find that you're sitting with around 591 liters. That's quite a lot, because when I'm looking at the X1, for example, it's like 540, CX5 is 546. But when I'm looking at the cousin, the Tucson, that's when you're like, yeah, wow, that's a big boot, because it's around 620 liters. But otherwise, they're almost the same because it's almost 600 liters. And one thing I like about the practical side of this car in terms of the boot, it's how you're going to be loading stuff, because it's splitting seats 40-20-40, so you can be able to load things in many ways than just when it's 40-60 when it comes to the seats. And another impressive thing is that underneath the boot, you get a full-size spare wheel that comes with the rim. It's not every day that you get that. The last time I saw this, I think it was on the Cherry Tiggo 7 Pro. So yeah, when you're changing a tire here, you don't have to stretch much. You can always get the other one later. So what happens when you pick it up? Of course, you're going to get the whole car, but it comes standard with a 5-year or unlimited kilometer warranty and a 6-year 90,000 service plan. That is actually generous. And when it comes to Kia, reliability has not been a problem of late. And of course, we're talking about a 5-star safety rated car. Comes with 6 airbags on the driver's side, passenger side, on the side, and curtains as well. Yeah, I think Kia has a reason to talk now. If I had to conclude on value versus asking price here, I'd say the ratio of likes versus dislikes is like 8-2 in favor of likes. This is a well-packaged car by Kia, and I think that package is making up the asking price. It gives you a feeling that it's worth every penny. It does look the part. A great offering by Kia. This is lovely, and with that said, thank you so much for watching. Till next time, I am out.